Hello, I'm Mayor Frank Jackson. I want to welcome you to Sustainable Cleveland 2020 Virtual Summit. As you know, we're doing things differently now, and meetings are being held virtually, and this summit is being held virtually. And maybe one day we'll get back to a normal way to do it, but this is the way we're doing it now. I want to welcome Dr. Jason Wood, who is our new Chief of Sustainability, and this will be his first summit. I want to thank the Cleveland Public Library for their helping us to put this on, their partnership. And I want to thank Dr. Julian Ajaman for being our keynote speaker this evening. As you know, when we first started Sustainable Cleveland 2019, we had a 10-year period in which we had designated things we wanted to accomplish that year. And we celebrated those things, whether it was clean water, alternative energy, local foods, all those types of things. And at the end of it, the last year was the year of the people. And the reason for that is that because at the end of all of what we do in trying to create a sustainable economy, environmental sustainability, it was all designed to help people and to improve the lives of people. And I believe during that 10 years, this summit that we're continuing, this summit has done a lot to accomplish that goal of making the life of people better. But as we move forward, we want to pay special attention to the whole side of equity, the side that talks about eliminating inequities and eliminating disparities and eliminating racism, and that including into sustainability, the health of people, not only in terms of the environment, but also their social health, and whether or not we as a country and we as individuals can be sustainable for a period of time. And the fact that if we do not address these social issues as well as the environmental issues, then we will not only not have healthy people, we will not have a sustainable society to live in. So I want to thank you for attending this year's virtual summit. And I also want to, again, welcome Dr. Woods to the role of being the sustainability chief, and I'll turn it over to him. Thank you very much.
All right, good morning, everyone. We are very excited to have you for our 2020 Sustainable Cleveland Virtual Summit, our first virtual summit. I want to welcome our new Chief of Sustainability since the last summit, Jason Wood. He's going to give a State of Sustainable Cleveland address, kind of letting everyone know what's been going on over the last couple of years or last year and what we have coming up on the horizon. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks everybody for being here. I know this is a little bit different than we've done in the past. And really, you know, it's been a little over a year since we gathered for the culminating Sustainable Cleveland 2019 Summit. And I guess probably the way to start this year's address is by saying what a difference a year makes. So 365 days ago, we came together as a community really to celebrate all that we had accomplished during the Sustainable Cleveland 2019 initiative. And honestly, I think we need to stop back and really appreciate that we accomplished a lot together. In 2009, we hosted our first summit. Mayor Jackson launched the Sustainable Cleveland initiative is really an ambitious plan to transform Cleveland into a green city on the Blue Lake. Over the next 10 years, we engaged more than 15,000 people from across the community to develop a blueprint for how we can really reduce our carbon footprint and create healthy, thriving, and resilient neighborhoods. We had over 700 people participate in 53 working groups, some of which have turned into nonprofits and businesses that are really working to advance sustainability in our neighborhoods and beyond. I think we can really point to some tangible progress that we've made as a community around renewable energy, local food, clean water, sustainable transportation, vibrant green space, and really so much more. I know a lot of us left last year's summit really proud of what we had accomplished, excited for all the work that was left to be done, but also maybe a little bit anxious about what the future of Sustainable Cleveland would look like. With so much focus on the 10-year conclusion of the 10-year initiative, it was really a natural point to stop, rethink, and discuss what our sustainable future held. And this is, in fact, one of the first conversations that Mayor Jackson and I had after I accepted the job as Chief of Sustainability. But I want to be very clear, it was not a conversation about if Sustainable Cleveland should continue, but rather how. As we look to the future, we thought about several challenges, including how do we continue the momentum that we as a community have built over the last 10 years? How do we organize everything that we have to do in order to create healthier, thriving, and resilient neighborhoods? And really, how do we do all of this in a way that improves economic opportunity and quality of life for all of our residents in the city of Cleveland? So in order to meet these challenges, we're obviously continuing the Sustainable Cleveland initiative. However, because sustainability really is a journey and not a destination that we can arrive at, we're not making it date certain this time around. The work that we are all doing is far too important to put an expiration on. And really, by not limiting the initiative to another 10 years or ending it in 2030, we're really working to reinforce sustainability as a value that should be embedded into everything we do far into the future. As we embed this value and transition from 2019 to what comes next, we had some discussions that we needed something new to aim for. So much of Sustainable Cleveland 2019 was focused on the 50th anniversary of the Cuyahoga River catching on fire. And we crossed that anniversary and celebrated the progress that we'd made across all of our work, and in particular, how we'd really revitalized the river, but also looked at the work necessary to continue our progress. As we talked through what the new goal or the new target should be, we kept coming back to our vision statement that focuses on creating a green city on a blue lake. We wanted something that would link with all of our ongoing work and would really allow us to benchmark our performance and measure our progress more effectively. As a result, we're setting what we feel to be a very aggressive goal of becoming a LEED Platinum city. I think most of you are familiar with LEED for Buildings, and the USGBC recently developed a quantitative and qualitative approach for assessing how cities and communities are doing in terms of sustainability. It really does work in much the same way as LEED for Buildings. It's a numeric scale that has prerequisites and credits, and really is a tool that helps guide places to become more sustainable, more equitable, and more resilient. So far, over 100 cities have certified, but less than 20 have gotten a platinum certification. So we really like LEED for Cities for a couple reasons. First, it gives us a holistic look at how we're doing. It blends information specifically from city operations, of course, but it also brings in data from the broader community perspective. Second, it has a very, very intensive focus on quality of life. Based on the scoring structure, it's very, very difficult to reach platinum certification without tangibly improving across a series of social and economic variables. You get points for having the right policies in place and increasing programmatic efficiency. But at the end of the day, if we aren't making things better for the people we serve, we're not going to get to where we want to be. Additionally, LEED for Cities lines up with a lot of our existing efforts. In 2018, the community came together and invested a lot of time and energy in updating our climate action plan. Through a community-focused and inclusive process, we were able to develop focus areas and objectives that reflected the overall sustainability priorities of our community. As we started the LEED for Cities process, we took a hard look at the alignment between our CAP focus areas and the prerequisites and credits in LEED for Cities. We did this because we wanted to be respectful of all of the work that's gone into developing our climate action plan. The good news is there's a tremendous amount of agreement between them. So we really did feel comfortable moving forward in the LEED for Cities certification process. Additionally, we like that LEED for Cities aligns so closely with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I know many of your organizations out there are really working with these and using them to guide what it is that you're doing. So we wanted to make sure that the alignment existed here as well. We've had some discussions with the USGBC about this, and they've gone through a pretty extensive process to align all of the prerequisites and credits in LEED for Cities with the SDGs. I'm not going to go through all of them here. We have a great breakout session on LEED for Cities a little bit later in the summit. And anybody who's interested in this, I would really encourage you to go to learn a little bit more about what goes into our process and how we're working through that. I don't want to spend too much time on this, and I apologize for it being a little bit small, but I do want to take a minute to show everyone what is in the LEED for Cities. If you've worked with LEED for Buildings, this form probably looks pretty familiar. But LEED for Cities has 7 main categories of evaluation. Integrative processes, which is really about how we're structuring the project and managing our work. Natural systems and ecology, which really looks at how we're protecting and maintaining our unbuilt environment. Transportation and land use, which looks at how we're interacting with our built environment in a more sustainable way. Water efficiency, which is really taking a hard look at water access and quality. Energy and greenhouse gas emissions. Materials and resources, which is looking at the entirety of our waste management process. And quality of life, which really measures how we're doing on a series of trends with a particular emphasis on distributional equity and environmental justice, which was critically important for us in the city of Cleveland as we move forward. Another thing that we liked about Lead for Cities is that it recognizes that it doesn't have all the answers. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to sustainability. As a result, it has 2 additional categories, innovation and regional priority, for communities that are doing innovative, out-of-the-box work to really create more sustainable communities and cities. We've also been very pleased that they're open to changes, particularly in light of current context. And they've already added multiple potential credits this year related to COVID response. So they're flexible enough in this process to really appreciate some of the dynamic changes we're facing as communities. To support our certification process, we applied for a grant, and we've got 20 cities selected to receive technical guidance, training, and other support for our certification efforts. Aligned with this grant, we've really divided our work into 2 phases. Phase 1 is really focused on certification and involves documenting our as-is conditions, compiling all of the relevant data we need to support what we've accomplished and where we're going, and then submitting our application. This will be followed by a phase 2, which will begin our optimization efforts. In phase 2, we'll focus on taking the lessons learned through the process, as well as the feedback we get from USGBC, to really identify policy and programmatic changes that are necessary to get us to that platinum certification. We anticipate completing phase 1 later this year or early next year. And to be completely candid, that's a little bit later than we had originally anticipated. When we all came together at last year's summit, I think it's fair to say that none of us could have predicted how different the world would be today. We started our Lead for Cities certification process in earnest in late February, and we're getting ready to pull together all of the resources and really start to dive into the data when COVID-19 hit. And the arrival of COVID-19 has fundamentally altered how we all live, work, and engage with one another, and has created a series of challenges that we've had to work through collectively. In addition to COVID-19, 2020 has seen unprecedented levels of civil unrest tied to the long-established institutionalized inequities, disparities, and racism, which manifest themselves across all aspects of our society. In his recent State of the City address and this morning in his opening remarks, Mayor Jackson outlined how these disparities have impacted our community. And he issued us all a challenge to address them, saying that without substantive and sustainable institutional changes, we will never become a great city. We will never create communities where all people can thrive and share in the quality of life and prosperity. The question is, do we have the will and the courage to become a great city? Like many of you, all of the unique challenges that 2020 have caused us to really adjust our timelines, reconsider what we're focused on, and most importantly, think about how we can use what we do to support the change necessary to become a great city. And I don't have to tell anyone on this call that the broader sustainability community has a critical role to play in creating this change. We know from a growing body of research that the linkage between higher levels of exposure to air pollution and increased COVID mortality risk is very real. Additionally, we see high levels of inequity in the distribution of various environmental factors that link to social determinants of health that really plague many of our residents in the city of Cleveland. So what can we do as a community, and how are we going to attack this challenge? Well, for us at the City of Cleveland, we're looking to leverage several sustainability concepts to really support this. First, we're going to take a look at how we can expand the circular economy in Cleveland. By looking to move beyond the take, make, waste model, we can really begin to redefine economic growth and place a greater focus on positive community-wide change. In addition to decoupling economic activity and resource usage, we can use this process to reduce the amount of waste we generate and the negative impact that brings, shorten supply chains to minimize emissions and other negative externalities, and keep more of our dollars here in our community, helping, if we do it right, to generate wealth for our residents. We have a great session on circular economy later in the summit, where we're going to talk a little bit more about what this means and what this is and how we can start to move forward on that. Second, we're going to continue to work with our existing partners, obviously, but we're also going to expand who we work with in terms of city departments and other external organizations, and really work to more directly link environmental factors and social determinants of health, in particular for potentially vulnerable populations. So this includes expanding our work with the Department of Public Health and our Department of Aging. For the first time at a summit, we have a breakout session on the intersection of sustainability and seniors. The Department of Aging is currently reassessing our city status as an age-friendly city, and they really need the help of the people who are in this room and at this summit. Tomorrow morning, I think they'll host a session to discuss and understand how the broader sustainability community can really support their efforts and really help us create more intergenerational equity in our city by leveraging sustainability principles and practice. Additionally, in order to continue to address equity, we can also aggressively implement the focus areas and objectives and actions of our climate action plan. As part of our climate action planning process, we created a racial equity tool that was really designed to analyze each climate objective and activity through an equity lens, and then help develop a plan to move us forward on this dimension. This toolkit was based on multiple goals and asked questions that evaluate how impactful we can be, including have communities of color been engaged, and does the proposed objective align with existing neighborhood priorities? How do we track the outcomes that we're looking for? And can we disaggregate the data in a way to illuminate potential disparity? Who benefits and who burdens by our actions? And does the proposed objective support communities of color and low-income populations through workforce development and increased economic opportunity? Every single objective and action in our plan was evaluated through this tool. And if it didn't meet these criteria, it was deprioritized. And we're going to continue to follow this approach. As a result, we've baked equity into the entirety of our climate action plan and are well positioned to succeed on this moving forward. So how have we been doing then? As we think about some of the specific objectives and actions, we're making progress. Our 2013 climate action plan set an aggressive goal of reducing emissions by 80% over a 2010 baseline by 2050. We updated our cap in 2018, and while we absolutely took a broader approach to the social and economic benefits of climate action, our commitment to emissions reduction remained a central focus of our effort. So let's start with some good news. Emissions in the region continue to trend down. Overall, between 2010 and 2018, we have reduced emissions by about 7%. And this downward trajectory is driven largely by declines in energy use due to more renewable energy sources coming online and some fuel switching to cleaner sources. Like many places around the world, we're continuing to see a decoupling of our emissions from economic activity. While emissions have declined about 7%, real GDP at the county level has increased about 16%. So we're continuing to see decoupling, which is an excellent indicator of some of the progress we're making. To support our overall emissions reduction goal, we set a target of having 25% of electricity in Cleveland coming from renewable sources by 2030. We've made progress here, but we do still have some work to do. And this one is honestly a little tricky. So much of the work that we can do in this space is shaped by state level regulatory environments and what utility providers are committed to doing. Ohio has not in its recent history been the most supportive of developing new renewable sources. House Bill 6 is one example, and we don't know what the future holds for that, but we can't look at it in isolation. There have been a pattern of barriers, including changes to setback rules for onshore wind development. When these rules took effect, multiple wind farms in various stages of development were put on hold. Additionally, changes to requirements for in-state renewable energy credits have really created some additional disincentives for developers to invest as well. So as a result, cities have had to get creative in how we look to advance renewable energy and really try to attack the challenge in a variety of ways. In Cleveland, we are fortunate that we have a municipally owned electric utility, Cleveland Public Power. This gives us as a city the ability to influence utility level generation. We established an alternative portfolio standard that had tiered requirements of 15% of CPP generation from renewable sources in 2015, 20% by 2020, and 25% by 2025. Through a mix of solar, like the CMHA array here on the screen, wind and hydro, CPP is currently at 21%, so they're slightly ahead of schedule. But this doesn't impact all of our residents, and a significant portion of our citizens are served by CEI, a local investor-owned utility. We have limited ability to impact their generation portfolio, so we've tried to find other ways to get renewables to these residents. One way we've done this is by leveraging the city's collective purchasing ability to get renewables in through our community choice aggregation program. During our most recent procurement, we included a requirement that the electric from this contract comes from renewable resources. And as a result, we're able to provide 100% renewable electricity to 40 to 45,000 residential and small commercial customers who are served by CEI. Now, this in and of itself is good, but there are things that we could do better. For example, in part due to some of the limiting factors on renewable development in Ohio, our aggregation provider is meeting this requirement by using RECs from a wind farm in Texas, which to a certain extent is outsourcing some of the environmental and economic benefits from this approach. So all of this activity combined with CEI's generation has helped us move toward our goal of 25%. In 2010, about 3% of the electricity we use in the city came from renewable sources. Since that point, we've seen steady growth year over year in the percentage of energy that we're using that's renewable. With the generation increases in the RECs that we have purchased, we're currently at about 13%, so we're about halfway to our overall goal. So there's still work to be done here, and we're continuing to look at multiple options of how we get there. This includes taking a look at our own city facilities to examine the possibility of on-site renewables, and also looking at potentially bringing in more renewables through municipal facility aggregation procurements as well. We also need to continue to look at ways to increase participation in smaller scale renewable projects. We've seen progress on here. We've grown from about 10 installations in 2010 to nearly 200 in Cuyahoga County, but there's still more that we can look at doing. This includes community solar options and how to increase participation in residential solar programs. So stay tuned, there'll be more work coming on that. But we're also focusing our efforts beyond electric generation. And we're making progress toward our goal of 100% of electricity demand from renewable sources by 2050. So we're not starting from scratch in this transition, and some of the work done at CPP and program have helped us move along the way. But we still need to continue to work on this. To support this effort, we've partnered with several community organizations to secure a Partners for Places grant that really is going to help us develop a community-wide transition plan. Now, this planning process is really critical to developing the menu of strategies that will help us move towards our goal. Due to the level of income inequality that we see in our community, we have built into this planning process a heavy and deliberate and intentional focus on equity and energy burden to make sure that as we make this transition, we're adequately and effectively distributing the benefits of our future actions to all residents. We anticipate completing this planning process later this year or early next year. We do have a breakout session on this one, and this is critical. During this session, you'll have the opportunity to kind of give us some feedback and some input on some of the different strategies that are available and help us map out what we would like to pursue as a community. So be on the lookout for that one a little bit later in the summit. At the municipal level, to help reduce electricity demand and usage, CPP is nearing completion of the LED streetlight upgrade project. So far, we've upgraded about 47,000 of the nearly 61,000 streetlights across the city. This means about 78% of the city right now has cleaner, brighter light. As you can see in these before and after pictures, it's a pretty stark change. When completed, the LED streetlight project will lead to lower energy demand, improved visibility and safety in our neighborhoods, fewer outages, and the ability to provide proactive maintenance for streetlights across the city. But we're also continuing our work that is not directly tied to emissions. Trees are a critical component of our urban fabric, and restoring our tree canopy is a high priority for us. 2020 has seen quite a bit of activity to support this goal. Very soon, the Cleveland Tree Coalition is going to be pushing out some information regarding the update to the Cleveland Tree Plan. And based on this report, we can quantify some of the environmental and health benefits of our local tree canopy. This includes annual environmental benefits in excess of $11 million, lifetime carbon storage benefits in excess of $20 million, and nearly $3.7 million of avoided negative health incidents. But we're still challenged by several factors that have slowed our progress here, including a lack of funding for planning, a lack of available public planning locations, and a lack of available trees in our region. While we've not completely reversed the trend of losing canopy since the original plan was launched in 2015, we have slowed the rate of loss, but the continued loss of canopy reduces the overall environmental, economic, and health impact that trees can have on our communities. To combat this loss, we're implementing some of the specific actions outlined in the tree plan, and are in the process of inventorying every city-owned tree. And this process started with reviewing the existing information that we have in our tree management system. We've geocoded that data into our GIS system and are doing some QA/QC work on that to determine really how extensive the additional inventory efforts may need to be to finish that in a timely and cost-effective manner. Our long-term plan is to move this inventory data into the city's asset management system so that we can more fully view trees as the critical assets that they are, and we can better coordinate maintenance and also make the tree data available to anyone who's working in our right-of-way. Additionally, we have significantly increased our planning efforts. At last year's summit, Mayor Jackson committed to spending an additional $1 million per year for the next 10 years on tree planting, and we already see that that investment is paying off in terms of increased planting. Over the previous 5 years, we planted on average about 400 trees per year. By the end of 2020, we'll have planted over 1,900 new trees with another 600 scheduled for the spring planting season. We know that our canopy is not evenly spread across the community. So if we increased our planning efforts, we followed an equity-based approach, really focusing our initial efforts in the neighborhoods that have very low levels of canopy. Again, we have a wonderful breakout session on trees later in the summit for those who are interested in learning a little bit more about the activity happening. Similarly, our commitment to tree canopy growth, we're continue to look for ways to expand park access. As part of our CAP, we established a goal of having 100% of our residents within a 10-minute walk of a safe program park. Currently, we're at about 83%. Now, according to the Trust for Public Lands Park Score, that puts us well above the national average of 55%, which is probably one of the reasons we saw our park score ranking increase from number 35 to number 29 earlier this year. But we're not satisfied with that. We're going to continue to work towards our goal of 100%. In 2019, we received a grant in collaboration with the Trust for Public Land and the Urban Land Institute from the NRPA to really support the development of community engagement strategies around the city's capital investment parks. So as we look at the parks that the city is going to be building and investing in, we want to make sure that we're able to meet the residents and community needs as we do that planning process. That RFP is under review still, but we do anticipate work getting started soon. And in light of some of the things that we're dealing with, we are looking at socially distant engagement strategies as well as an option through that. One area where candidly we had a challenge this year was recycling. And I know a lot of folks who are on this call and who are attending this summit are very concerned about recycling. But I do want to reiterate something that we've said already, and that is that the city of Cleveland remains committed to recycling, but it has to be recycling that works. In 2018, our diversion rate was about 7.5%, well below our 30% target. In 2019, it was even lower. Now, due to a variety of market and local factors, when we went out to bid for a new contract, we only received one bid that would have significantly increased program costs simply to maintain the status quo. So as part of the city's commitment to recycling, the Office of Sustainability is working with the city's Division of Waste Collection on a review of the waste management process. The consultants who are doing this work are on board and work is underway. And we've really made sure to focus and include several things that I think are critical in this review, including recycling, organics diversion, and potential circular economy solutions. Again, we've got a great breakout session on this later in the summit, and we're really looking for community input about what the future of waste management should look like in the city of Cleveland. For about the past 2 years, we've been working with U.S. Water Alliance's Water Equity Task Force to identify solutions around water affordability and access. And this has been a great exercise for the city of Cleveland. It brought together Cleveland Water, the Sewer District, community groups, philanthropic organizations to have an honest discussion about our local context and learn best practices from other cities. The 7-city task force wrapped up its work earlier this year and resulted in the development of a Cleveland-specific roadmap. Additionally, we're launching a Water Champions program, modeled to a certain extent after the Climate Ambassadors program. This will utilize neighborhood residents to help distribute critical information about water affordability and quality, as well as collect feedback from residents regarding their water-related needs and share that information with our utilities. So just a couple of final quick updates. Earlier this year, the council did pass the ordinance to renew the shared mobility legislation. I think we can say that the demonstration project in 2019 was successful with over 210,000 total rides. We did make some program updates for 2020, most notably the extension of operating hours and the increase in the speed cap. And additionally, we're working hard to link this program with our broader Vision Zero effort. I think everybody is familiar with Vision Zero and the important work that they're doing, but we're really working hard to identify potential ways to make our streets safer for all users. In the CAP, we highlighted the need to drive cleaner and more fuel-efficient vehicles. I'm excited to say that we have started adding new electric vehicles and charging infrastructure into the city's fleet. Here's a picture of it. We kind of jokingly asked the folks at Motor Vehicle Maintenance if we could get a Sustainable Cleveland bumper sticker, and this is what they came back with, so I guess we'll take that. We're going to look to continue to add vehicles moving forward through our capital ordinance. The timing is right due to falling prices and expanded offerings that really make it easier to secure additional vehicles for our light duty fleet. I guess to kind of wrap things up, when Mayor Jackson created the Sustainable Cleveland Initiative in 2009, we were in the midst of what we thought at that time was an unprecedented economic crisis. Some of you at this summit and on this call have been with us since 2009. Many more of you joined along the way. And during that time, I think we've all seen how we can use the important work that we do in this space to help drive tangible community and neighborhood improvement. 2020 has certainly been a year that has challenged all of us in ways that we could have never expected. As we move into the next phase of Sustainable Cleveland, we are as a sustainable community uniquely positioned to help Cleveland take on these challenges and create a more equitable community. But we can't do this alone. Nobody in this room can do this by themselves. Instead, we need to do them the same way we've approached everything we've accomplished over the past 11 years, together, working collaboratively to make Cleveland a great city with thriving, healthy, and equitable neighborhoods. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Jason. Really appreciate the update and got a lot of really good comments from our audience in our chat So up next on our agenda is sort of open networking time. Many of you, as you know, we're seeing are very new to the Hopin platform, and we want to offer you the opportunity. You know, if you've attended some of our summits in the past, one of the things that I found, you know, is really the most value that we get out of the summit is the interaction that we have with one another, learning from others, getting to meet new people in the community, all working towards this goal of creating a green city on a blue lake. So one of the nice features about this Hopin platform is it does allow some interaction between yourselves through the networking tab. So if you take a look over on the left-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a networking tab. Once you click that, you're going to be brought into a room where you can be ready to connect with others. It will randomly assign you to another participant, and I'm going to put up on the screen shortly here a couple questions, and then we're going to put in the chat as well the questions that can just help get some of the conversation started. So give me one quick second here. Jason, quick thumbs up if you can see my screen. Perfect. So the questions that we're going to be asking today are first, you know, please share your name, organization, or affiliation once you are paired up with someone. Have you attended a Sustainable Cleveland Summit before? I know some of you, I've seen you at all now 12 of our summits, and I want to thank you again for coming back. But, you know, some of you may be new, and with that in mind, you know, it brings us to the next question. What brought you to the Sustainable Cleveland Summit, and what are you hoping to get out of the next 2 days? What you will notice is you only have 3 minutes when you are randomly paired with someone. So it really forces you to kind of get to the point, answer some of these questions as quickly as possible with yourselves. But I really encourage you to connect, you know, sort of outside of that networking feature as well. You can see on the People tab on the right-hand side, all of the folks that are here joining the summit right now. So, you know, please reach out if you see friends, say hello. If there's breakouts that you're interested in checking out, make sure to mention those, or things that you've learned from past breakouts. We're trying to make this as interactive as possible while being as socially distant and virtual as we can be. So, you know, please keep that in mind. So with that, we're going to close the stage area. It is now networking time, and we want to encourage all of you, please come back at 11 o'clock for our keynote. Dr. Julian Edgemond, he is going to be giving us a really awesome keynote on just sustainabilities, and maybe arrive a couple minutes ahead of time just so you can be ready to go as soon as it starts. So we will see you back here at the stage at 11, and thank you all again for joining the Sustainable Cleveland 2020 Virtual Summit.